In the fluorescent light of an office in Boxburg, the theft began quietly, almost imperceptibly. The room smelled faintly of paper, toner, and stale coffee. The kind of environment where nothing remarkable was expected to happen. Hildegard Steenkamp, then a junior accountant, settled into her role at Medtronic with the air of someone eager to prove herself. She was new, barely 6 months into the job, a face so ordinary that no one would have suspected her of harbouring grand ambitions. Yet behind her calm demeanour, she was already watching the system with a predator's patience, looking for seams, for weak points in the fabric of corporate trust. It was December of 2004 when she made her first move. The transaction itself was small enough to be overlooked. A quiet flicker on a screen, a line on a ledger that blended seamlessly into hundreds of others. But for Hildegard, it was a test. A test of whether she could reach into the company's veins and draw out its lifeblood without anyone feeling the sting. The system didn't protest. The numbers shifted, and just like that, she knew she had found a way in. Each day after that, the office looked the same. Rows of desks, the hum of computers, the indifferent shuffle of colleagues passing papers back and forth. No one saw the invisible hand carving money away from Medtronic's accounts. To them, she was diligent, steady, perhaps even unremarkable. But beneath her keystrokes lay betrayal. Each click of the mouse became a calculated risk, each entry a tiny act of defiance against the trust placed in her. By the time the years unfurled into January of 2017, the scale of what she had done defied comprehension. She had siphoned away 537 million rand. The thefts were not sudden, dramatic raids, but a slow, relentless bleed. Month after month, year after year, she built her own private empire in silence. What had started as a single theft blossomed into a ritual, until it became part of the rhythm of her life. Medtronic, PTLT, was not a modest player. It was the South African arm of Medtronic plc, the largest medical device company in the world by revenue, generating over $33 billion in the 2025 fiscal year. Within such vast operations, the daily movement of capital was enormous, and the volume of internal transactions was immense. To this global giant, a junior accountant's transfers, even in the tens of millions of rand, were effectively imperceptible. To Hildegard, this meant the perfect cover. She could siphon amounts that were monumental to her, yet trivial in the context of Medtronic's global cash flow. Her thefts were significant for her own world, but minuscule to the company's colossal ledger. In those corridors of privilege, where billions flowed with routine frequency, her fraudulent withdrawals blended into the noise, allowing her illicit scheme to proceed unnoticed for years. Hildegard had fashioned herself into a shadow banker, hidden in plain sight. She slipped her name and her late husband's into the list of beneficiaries, creating a secret current that carried money out of Medtronic's coffers and into her control. The process was deceptively simple. It was routine paperwork twisted into something sinister. Ordinary tasks, reclaiming value-added tax, processing transactions became the camouflage for her crimes. Every transfer was a performance of normalcy, designed to escape notice. The brilliance of her method lay not in complexity but in invisibility. She understood that the best thefts were those that looked exactly like honest work. Hildegard eventually stole in quantities so large, they might have bankrupted smaller firms. There were months where she siphoned over 20 million rand, as though the company's account were her own private reservoir. She constructed a paper facade that looked identical to real business. A phantom economy of shifting balances and duplicate payments. Her colleagues began to notice changes by 2005, small at first, then growing more dramatic. She started dressing differently, carrying herself with a kind of confidence that suggested sudden prosperity. When whispers began, she was ready with explanations. An inheritance from her late father, she would say, delivered in time to lift her out of modest means. Or she would mention her husband's ventures, painting him as a businessman who had struck gold after years of effort. And when even that seemed insufficient, she reached for chance itself. Stories of winnings at the tables, lucky streaks in casinos that no one could disprove. The lies served as a shield, smoothing over suspicion with a casualness that disarmed those around her. After all, who would question luck, or family wealth, or the unpredictable rise of a private business? To her colleagues, These stories explain the designer clothes, the sudden trips, the lifestyle shift that seemed to blossom overnight. Yet beneath the surface, the money was sluicing into accounts that should have been dormant. Accounts belonging to her husband, Mathis, who became a ghostly partner in her scheme. The stolen funds did not sit idle. They flowed outward, into ventures, luxuries, and indulgences that only deepened the illusion. Hildegard was not merely stealing money. She was reshaping her world, constructing a life that appeared legitimate to the casual eye, but was in fact built on fraud. She crafted a parallel existence, as though two women walked through the office each day. One was the diligent accountant, the other a thief who had already learned how to live above the means of everyone around her. The audacity was not only in the size of the thefts, but in the seamlessness of the disguise, a deception so carefully maintained that it became almost invisible. Forensic investigator Graham Dawes later described the thefts in court. He and his team from Deloitte combed through bank records, cross-referenced transactions, and traced the ghostly footprints left behind. They found 336 fraudulent transactions spread over more than a decade. Each one chipped away at the company's coffers until the damage approached 770 million rand when penalties and repayments to the South African Revenue Service were counted. But it was not the theft itself that fascinated the public. It was what Hildegard did with the money. There were nights where she gambled 5 million rand away in a single sitting. Emperor's Palace Casino confirmed that she spent more than 67 million rand there in just 5 years. And gambling was not confined to South African floors. She carried her appetite abroad, into casinos overseas where the stakes were higher and the losses swifter. Some of the stolen money went into her husband Mathis's account, where it was poured into ventures that failed, leaving only smoke and creditors in their wake. Hildegard also travelled widely. Records show at least 11 trips to Dubai between 2010 and 2017. Each trip was punctuated by shopping sprees at luxury boutiques. Designer brands filled her closets. Jewellery from Chopard, Louis Vuitton, Versace and Breitling gleamed in her collection. She acquired diamond necklaces, pendants, bracelets and watches. A world of glittering indulgence, bought with money that was never hers. Back in South Africa, her life expanded into bricks and mortar. 6 homes stood under her name. The crown jewel was a double-storey mansion in Cinderella, Boksburg, complete with manicured gardens, koi ponds, split air conditioning, an internal speaker system and CCTV security. Valued at 5 million rand, it was only one piece of her empire. The other homes ranged between 600,000 and 2 million rand each, scattered tokens of her wealth. The interiors were just as lavish. 85-inch televisions, ice machines, Sony PlayStations, coffee machines, gun safes, iPhones, iPads, framed paintings and furniture chosen to impress. More than 300 bottles of alcohol filled her home bar. Johnny Walker, Blue Label, champagne, cognac, rare whiskies. 105 bottles of Blue Label alone, each retailing at 3,000 rand. It was a kingdom of intoxication, built on stolen foundations. Even in death, Mathis lingered in the narrative. He died in December of 2014, choking while on holiday at Sun City. Yet his account remained central to Hildegard's scheme. It was the conduit for much of the stolen money. He became, in financial records at least, a partner in fraud long after his lungs had closed. By the end, the ruse collapsed. The forensic investigation stripped the glamour from her purchases, reducing them to exhibits. The asset forfeiture unit seized what they could: houses, jewellery, cars, coins, Krugerrands, even koi ponds. The tally of recovered assets barely reached 30 million rand. A fraction, a whisper, compared to the fortune she had drained. In December of 2023, the Johannesburg Commercial Crimes Court sentenced Hildegard to 50 years in prison. She was declared unfit to own a firearm. Her family stood in the courtroom, watching her prepare to leave them behind for the confines of a cell. The magistrate Philip Venter called the theft mind-boggling. To think that a single employee could steal so much from one of the world's largest medical device companies. He described her scheme as deliberate, well-planned, and executed alone. No money was ever recovered for Medtronic. The company had absorbed the loss, paid the penalties to SARS, and spent millions more on investigations that stretched across borders. For Hildegard, there was no safe left to crack open now, no button to press for another transfer, only the weight of years stretching ahead, an empire dismantled piece by piece in auctions and court orders. And yet, in the public memory, she is not just an accountant gone bad. She is the woman who walked into casinos and placed 5 million rand on the line in one night. The woman who collected bottles of whiskey like trophies, who built koi ponds and travelled to Dubai 11 times. She turned corporate theft into a theatre of extravagance. But extravagance has an end, and for Hildegard, it arrived with the full weight of inevitability. The years of gambling halls, luxury boutiques, koi ponds, and 6 glittering houses collapsed into a single moment, defined by the slam of a courtroom door. Everything she had ever purchased. The jewellery, the rare whiskies, the imported handbags, the oversized televisions, was stripped away, catalogued by the Asset Forfeiture Unit and prepared for auction. What had once been symbols of her ascension now became evidence, reduced to lot numbers on an inventory sheet. The story that had begun in the shadows of December 2004, with a cautious test of the system's weakness, ended beneath the harsh fluorescent lights of Palm Ridge Magistrates Court. The walls there were not lined with gold or adorned with designer fabrics. They were plain, institutional, and indifferent. The magistrate's words cut away the illusions she had built over 13 years of theft, reducing them to cold facts of law and punishment. 50 years of imprisonment stretched ahead, a sentence so long it might as well have been a life. In that room, the noise of casinos and the thrill of easy money gave way to silence, the kind that lingers in prison corridors where days are counted slowly. The applause of luxury had been replaced by the echo of footsteps in chains. Hildegard, who once lived as though fortune had chosen her, now faced the truth that fortune had only ever been borrowed, and now it had been called back in full.
Her tale is not only about stolen millions, it is about the illusion that wealth without work can last forever. For more than a decade, Hildegard lived like royalty in Boksburg, yet every note of champagne and every diamond clasp carried the quiet ticking of a clock. When that clock struck, it was not with glamour, but with the clang of prison gates. Today, the houses stand stripped, the koi ponds drained, the jewellery scattered at auction, and the 537 million rand reduced to a cautionary number in legal records. Hildegard herself remains behind bars, her empire dismantled, and her name forever tied to one of the largest frauds ever committed by a single employee in South Africa. It is a reminder that shadows always collapse in the light. However carefully the mask is worn, however seamless the lies may seem, the truth has a way of waiting, and when it arrives, it takes everything. And so the rise and fall of Hildegard closes not with diamonds or Dubai, but with iron bars and decades of silence. A fortune stolen, a life wasted, and a story that still leaves us asking, how did it go on for so long, right under everyone's nose? What do you think? Was this the boldest embezzlement South Africa has ever seen, or just another tale of greed outpacing common sense? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story gripping, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next dive into the dark side of true crime.